So, the other day, I jumped under the shower, and after about a minute or so, the water went cold. Now that's not unusual. The gas hot water system here it's very sensitive to low flow, and it will just turn itself off. And this has happened numerous times, so I just turn the water off and point it away from me while and turn it back on and wait while it warms back up again. But this time, after a few minutes, it still wasn't warm, which is unusual. I said, okay, what's the problem? Cold, wet and soapy. I towel myself off and go to investigate the water heater, and the water heater has a red light on it which indicates there is a problem. And last time this happened, it was a problem with the batteries, I think. Anyway, so I went into the kitchen to make sure there's gas, and I've had to do this a few dozen times before, and there's always been gas, so it's always just been a problem with the water flow. Anyway, today there was no gas in the kitchen. Oh dear. And so I get onto the internet, onto QQ chat, and call my friend who usually helps me out when I have such issues. And she's working, so it takes some time to get responses from her, and it takes about 3 hours. And eventually she agrees that she's going to come and meet me for lunch, or more to the point, meet me at the gas company, and then we can go for lunch after. And she will help me try and get it sorted out. So we get to the gas company, and it turns out that when you have town gas here, as opposed to bottled gas, when you have town gas, there is a gas meter, and it's prepaid only. They have a smart card that you buy credit on it, and then you take it home and you shove the card into the machine, and then the machine recognises that you've bought so many cubic meters of gas. So I fessed up with 240 yuan for some more gas, and then we went and had some lunch, which was quite lovely. Then I took my friend back to work, and I went home, put the card in, and absolutely nothing happened. No beeps, no clicks, no gas. So I said, okay, what's the problem? It's a smart card. It's got a chip on one side and no chip on the other. I said, okay, well, obviously I've put it in the wrong way around. So I turn the card around, and I leave it in there for a second or two, and then I pull it out and it beeps. Oh, okay, that's positive. Try the gas. There is a brief sputter of gas, and then it goes back out again. I tried this a few more times, tried it turning it back around again with the face forward or with the chip forward, tried it a few different times, and eventually gave up. She is busy working again, and so she can't help me, so I call some students for help, and they call the gas company. Actually, they visited my house. They eventually called the gas company, and the gas company said they got them to try a couple of things, and they tried it and they still couldn't make it work, and so eventually they said, alright, we'll send a guy out and he'll be there in about 15 minutes. So we waited about 15 minutes, and eventually the man came, and he had a look, and the first thing he said was, these gas meters should be replaced after about 6 years, and yours is 8 years old. So I said, okay. I said, well, talk to the landlord about that. I said, what about the card? And he said he tried the card too, and his first attempt was putting it in with the face forward, and nothing happened. And then he turned it around and tried it, exactly the same thing I did. And eventually he said that I had done this too many times and I had broken the card. So I needed to go back to the gas company and get it refunded, get the money reapplied. And I said, well, what's to say it's not just going to happen exactly the same? And he said, well, the machine might be busted. I said, well, replace the machine. How much does that cost? And he said, it's free. And I said, well, just do it. So eventually, after a little while, he and his apprentice had replaced the machine. He said, all right, you've now got a month worth of gas. You've got a month to go and sort it out, get some more money on the card. And he gave me a receipt and the card back and sent me back to the gas company. So this footage is the next day when I'm going back to the gas company to get the card, get the money put back on the card. And here we are at the gas company. So we're all finished at the gas company, and the trip back home is pretty boring, so I've just cut to the chase here. I decided to take a scenic route on the way home. It was my day off, so I had plenty of time. And this is Kangpinglu, which is Restaurant Street. It's just lined with restaurants for about a kilometre, and there are lots and lots and lots of them. And if you like Chinese food, it's a great place to come. If you're after foreign food, well, there's not a lot of selection. There's one Korean restaurant, one steak restaurant, and a Japanese restaurant. Coming down here, I saw, here's the entrance to Gaoyuanchun, which is a city village. Now, if you know China, you'll know that they have this household registration system, which basically restricts the ability of people to move around. Your household registration will determine which schools you're allowed to go to, where you're allowed to buy property, and so forth. It's quite a big deal, I believe, if you want to emigrate to the city or emigrate to the countryside. The government has to decide that that's what they want you to do. But in order to make sure that there is plentiful cheap labour in the cities, they create these villages which are zoned for people with a rural residential permit, residential household registration. So you get these little villages popping up everywhere, and this is quite a nice little place. There's a park in the middle, and I was just looking to the right there, I saw a couple of chickens running across the road. It's very much a village if you have chickens walking freely. And as you can see up here, some people consider pyjamas to be perfectly acceptable daytime fashion. The houses here are kind of like terraces. Urban people live in apartments, but rural people live in these blocks of terrace houses. Each house is only about 6 metres wide, and they tend to be 4 or 5 stories tall. And they group them five in a block. Then there is a gap. Sometimes the ground floor is used as a garage for your cars. These square tubs, this is where people do their laundry. And you can see that some folks are growing vegetables and so forth as well. It's a gated community. You can see the gate here, but it's nowhere near as safe as a gated community in the West. This gate here is not, there's no security on it, so the gate is kind of irrelevant really. It's quite interesting to see the differences in some of the vehicles around. You see these little electric or petrol powered tricycles parked right next to BMWs and Audis, and as you saw in the Ride to Work video, I think that was an orange Lamborghini. This is the little road between Haitianyan, where my office is, on the left, and then on the right, a construction site. I don't know what they're building, but it's been a hole in the ground that's been slowly developed over the past year. Here's another short restaurant street as we get near one of the supermarkets. It used to be a Korean restaurant, they're renovating at the moment. I don't know what they're planning on putting in. There's a foreigners pub on the right, Lucky's Bar. And as you can see, we have here Saturday morning traffic. It's one of the reasons that you really don't want to get a car in China with so many people. There are, even though cars are ridiculously expensive here, there are enough people that have money that there are still a ridiculous number of cars around. And they don't, for some reason, they don't create good parking infrastructure. The multi-storey car parks that we have in Australia just seem to be non-existent. At least in my town they're non-existent. The roller shutters and stuff that you see along here, these are all the snack vendors. And you can get all kinds of regional snacks, and they're pretty much all 5 or 6 renminbi, which is very little money. And it's enough for a light lunch. So you can see the little electric scooters are ubiquitous here. Now have a look up ahead. Some of these cars are parked, some of them are not. But what you can see in the intersection here is just gridlock. Nobody wants to give way. Of course, I'm on a bicycle. This is actually a 125cc petrol scooter that is registered as a 48cc petrol scooter, and therefore is technically a bicycle. Bicycles can do things like ride on the pavement. And normally here on the round corner there is a little dip which allows you to ride, but there isn't one here for some reason, which is why I've had to turn around and use the driveway here. So I've just done a loop going back to that little narrow road down beside the school. Our main competitor is up on the left. The car is obviously wondering, what am I going to do now? There are bollards here. As a biker, I have no problem. And here I am, pulling up out the front of my new favourite restaurant, which has very, very friendly staff. The lady here is quite lovely and is very keen to service and to change the menu and make recommendations. She actually asked me the other day if I would import some baby formula for her. The locals don't trust Chinese milk powder after the melamine scandal of a few years ago, and nobody trusts local vendors to not be selling fake products, which is a bit of a shame. Anyway, it's lunchtime, so see you later.
Say hello. 你好。